Well, people on average are buying 60% more clothing today than they were 18 years ago, and they keep those clothes about half as long.
Brooke Katz explores the issue of overconsumption.
It happens over and over again. You see something you like online, place an order, it's in your closet for a while before being donated or put directly in the trash. But now with fast fashion, that cycle is repeating at breakneck speed, and shoppers searching for new looks at low prices love it. Hundreds of people lined up in Plano last month at a pop-up shop for the brand Shein. Customers who were already regularly ordering online waited hours to buy even more.
I actually just placed an order last week, probably like once a month, at least once a month.
I order sometimes twice a month.
2 times a month.
Their social media feeds are feeding the need to buy it now.
Literally whatever is popping on Instagram, you can just get it. You see it on TikTok. As soon as a trend pops up, they already have it in their website.
I'm always finding something that I need.
Wear it and move on.
But that moving on is filling up our landfills. It's estimated that the average American throws away 81 pounds of clothing each year.
It's a bombshell source of pollution in so many different ways.
Professor Mary Ann Cairns is an environmental anthropologist at SMU. She runs a research center that studies the impact the fashion industry has on the environment. From piles in landfills to factories dumping contaminated wastewater, the pollution from global shipping, and the exploitation of workers, in some cases with sweatshop conditions.
If you're paying $5 for a t-shirt, think about if you were going to sew that t-shirt, wouldn't it be more than $5, right? It's not a thing, right? That $5 t-shirt, something somewhere was hurting the environment or potentially hurting laborers or something like that.
Karen says to think about your clothes like your groceries, quality, organic, locally sourced, good for the environment.
I'm not here to tell people exactly what they should be spending on clothing. I'm not here to tell people that jeans should cost this amount. I think that's different for every person, right? But I think that everybody can kind of rethink the way that they're conceptualizing what clothing should cost and take into account the actual cost of labor, the actual cost of the fabric, the actual cost of that item to the environment.
Our goal was really to rethink our consumption practices in order to make a change.
UNT professor Eva Yestratievich is studying sustainability, using her students as the subjects. 755 students tracked their shopping habits for 3 months. The data showed together they purchased nearly 11,000 new items worth $750,000.
First impression was complete shock that they invested this amount of money to buy this amount of items they don't need.
Students wore the new pieces on average 5 times each. Every 6th item was never worn.
There is a lot of social pressure to purchase new, to buy new, to exchange clothes more often.
And when they did get rid of the clothing, 90% of students were likely to put it directly in the trash, blaming poor quality, fit, or outdated style. Yestratievich helped launch a series of Mean Green Fix and Wear workshops to teach students and faculty how to mend their own clothes, from small holes to loose buttons to bigger problems. But Karen says the real fix comes from changing how we buy.
It's okay, you're allowed to like fashion. I like fashion, right? But just being more mindful about how you consume it.
That was Brooke Katz reporting.
In a world driven by consumerism and ever-changing fashion trends, the consequences of fast fashion are increasingly evident. As we dive deeper into this pressing issue, it's crucial to understand the magnitude of its impact on the environment and communities around the globe. Fast fashion, characterized by its rapid production and disposal of inexpensive clothing, has left a trail of environmental degradation and social injustice in its wake. To truly grasp the scale of this problem, we take you on a journey to Ghana, where one of the largest landfills of discarded clothing stands as a stark testament to the perils of fast fashion. In a powerful and eye-opening video, we will witness firsthand the immense piles of garments that have been discarded, often shipped from Western countries after only a few wears. Stay with us as we delve into the heart of this issue and uncover the devastating effects of fast fashion on both the environment and the people who bear the burden of our disposable clothing culture.
The goods that are coming now is really affecting our business.
Hey, name I had a long seafood. You see, I'm actually wish you were medical. Not such a way.
This is a major graveyard for fast fashion waste. Years of dumping Western cast-offs and plastics have created this environmental nightmare.
You can't take it out. You have to dig. It's buried. It's stuck. Wow. Some of these clothes are polyester and I would say synthetic fabrics. That also go into the waterway and chokes the fish and the marine life in there. The fashion industry actually loses $500 billion a year due to fashion waste. And we need to really mobilize to get all these production and manufacturing companies internationally to commit to how this will be disposed of.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Speak Your Mind. We are here live now. My name is Pastor Giovanni, and we're going to be together in the following program. And we ask you already the question: have you ever thought about where your clothes come from and if maybe it can harm somebody? As the question there, fast fashion and high-end and sustainable fashion. What do you think this means? I'm not by myself, but I am here with Mrs. Audrey. Miss Audrey, good evening. How you doing?
Good evening, Pastor. I'm well, and welcome everyone again to another episode of Speak Your Mind. And as always, we have a poll that's going on that you can go ahead and scan the QR code and join our poll and be able to take part. The following question, as it was said: fast fashion versus high-end and sustainable fashion. When making fashion choices, what do you prioritize? What do you go for? Is it affordable? Is it trendy? Is it ethical, environmental? Maybe you haven't even thought about this. Maybe it's just the first thing that you see, that you like, and then you buy. But let us know what you think, as we'll be speaking about this topic. You can go ahead and call. You can go ahead and text us to 437-233-9815. We want to hear from you and speak your mind.
And I want to show you guys the following video. When we come back, we are going to be already answering some phone calls, reading some of your messages that you guys send it. But the next thing I want to show you guys is something that happened a couple of years ago. And it is a bit unfortunate, but kind of shows you a bit of the reality of the cost of fashion. Pay very close attention. We'll be right back.
I started the day normally like other days. Immediately, I take my camera and get there. I suddenly felt, am I in a war zone? I was hearing the scream from the rubble, someone saying, chop off my leg and pull me out. I stopped shooting. I was trying to help. Around 7:30, two volunteer workers called me and showed me two dead bodies under the rubble. I saw the bodies kind of huddle each other, holding each other to survive. I started shooting again. I felt like these images should be the voice of these people who died. No one knows their story, how they survive making these clothes for first world country. There's no question the contribution of garment industry in Bangladesh in the economy, but it needs more good rules and regulation. I see the brand names all the time. The tags remind me the tags I have seen in Rana Plaza collapse. People don't want to pay more. So if you don't want to pay more, how the producer would pay more to the worker? So it's like the chain, start from the consumer and ends to the labor, Still, a lot of people are missing. They didn't find their bodies. Somebody lost 2 daughters, 2 sons, husband, wife, both. Who will take their responsibility?
So have you all noticed that everything kind of sucks now? And I don't mean like the general state of the world. I mean like the stuff we buy is just like a little bit worse than it was 10 years ago. And I really started thinking about this because my coworker Izzy wrote about how she had to replace a bra.
So I'm going to do what any normal person would do, which is buy the exact same thing from the exact same place.
And then after a few weeks, it just kind of
fell apart. So this kind of started me on like this journey of like, okay, I'm hearing anecdotally from like so many people that I talk to like in my life, from coffee machines, phones, computers, sweaters.
They all tear or break or like explode way sooner than they used to. So what's going on? And is there a way to climb out from under this pile of consumer trash? So let's talk about this in the most basic of terms, starting with the design process. When a company wants to make a thing, let's say like a jacket, there are three main factors to consider. Functionality, does it work? Appearance, does it look good? And manufacturability, is it easy and fairly inexpensive to make a lot of this product? Generally, a good product will have a good blend of these three things. But in recent years, this process has been thrown off balance. Let's look at clothes, for example. In the past, if you needed a new jacket, you used to go to a tailor, get measured, choose a material, and have it made. Then for decades, instead of going to a tailor for a jacket, we went to department stores and bought things that were mass produced. By the 80s and 90s, we had tons of options in stores to choose from. And now, many of us just kind of go online, click add to cart, and buy a product without ever seeing it in person. But it's not just how we buy, it's how often we buy. And for that, we can kind of blame this man.
Ernest Elmo, yeah, incredible name. In the 1930s, during the Great Depression, he wrote this paper that was like, okay, like the government should really like support this idea of planned obsolescence.
Except he didn't call it planned obsolescence. He called it consumer engineering. Remember that jacket you bought? Well, it's a new season and it's out of style. Buttons are out, zippers are in. So you buy something new, but not because there was anything physically wrong with the original.
That's why it's called consumer engineering, right? Like it's up here in the brain.
And we've been living this way for decades. So now we all want the next best thing all the time. And that demand has spun out of control. Today, we are surrounded.
The speed of certain trend cycles and the fact that they're geared towards like these micro communities, like Stanley Cups, when like maybe a year ago it was like Hydro Flasks.
The result is that we buy a lot. A survey done in 2021 found that nearly 40% of UK consumers buy clothing as often as once a month. The UN reports that between the year 2000 and 2014, the average person was buying 60% more clothing, and each item was only kept half as long. So we want to buy a lot of stuff fast, and because we replace our stuff so often, we don't really want to spend a lot of money on it, which has an effect too.
People aren't willing to pay more for something they have purchased a while ago. So like if I paid $30 for a bra 10 years ago, it would be really hard for me to buy it at $50, even though in the last 10 years, labor costs have risen.
So what we're left with is an incredibly fast cycle of demand for low-cost products. And here's what that looks like. In order to speed up manufacturing, companies have to either hire more people, alter how the product is made, or both. But they also have to keep prices low enough for consumers to keep buying. So they may start swapping materials like cotton or silk for a cheaper synthetic material, or rely on a more basic stitching pattern that maybe just doesn't hold as well. So if after 10 years, you're still paying the same price or close to the same price for a product that looks the same, well, something had to change. So you might say, okay, Kim, fashion trends are moving too fast and we buy too much stuff. I get it, but why does my washing machine suck? And that's a great question. Let's talk about technology. When things like computers first became part of our daily lives, it made a lot of sense to upgrade devices pretty often.
There was actually very big differences in what a device did that's 2 years old versus one that was brand new in the market. There was just big leaps.
This is Gay Gordon Byrne. She directs a consumer advocacy group called the Repair Association.
You know, if you had a 2-year-old thing, you probably couldn't do half the cool stuff that the other guy could do. So that kind of fueled the replacement cycle because you really did get something better in terms of functionality.
For example, when the iPhone was first made, it was a major breakthrough. Subsequent phones up to a point responded to major technological leaps. Like, look at the difference between the 3GS and the 4. The iPhone 4 had a way better resolution and a front-facing camera. For a while, these major leaps between models was the norm for technology. But we're not making those giant changes as often anymore. Instead, partly to make us want to buy more things, companies make very minor adjustments year after year. So the dryer you own may now play a fun little song at the end of the cycle instead of screaming. And now, as devices advanced and got increasingly complicated, there was another problem for consumers.
All of these things started to come into the into the world, they didn't come in with repair tools. They came in to be thrown away.
Basically, when this stuff breaks, it's often intentionally impossible to repair.
Because if you buy something that has a computer chip in it or a circuit board or whatever, you probably can't make one in your garage. So you're very reliant on what the manufacturer will agree to sell. And very often they don't agree to sell parts and tools and diagnostics or even give you a diagram.
But sometimes it really just is impossible to fix because they cut corners just like in fashion, replacing metal and screws with plastic and glue. And these kind of issues apply across the board in technology, from your phone to toasters to blenders to electric wheelchairs to your car.
If you walk around your house or your apartment and you start cataloging how many things you own that have chips in them, I think you'd be really surprised how big that lack of repair problem actually is.
1-877-785-8700. You can give us a call right now or through WhatsApp, 437-233-9815. Mrs. Audrey, before we get into the phone call, do we have any comments yet?
We do. Yes, sir. We have here Tasha that says like this, that I don't deny when I shop, I usually go for the affordable and comfortable. I didn't realize the history behind the clothing I buy and use. I agree that clothing should be more valued and cared for. We also have here Karen that says, I have been wearing the same favorite clothes for several years now. Even though I would like to buy something nice and new, everything I see in the stores looks awful. There's a lot of things that no longer last anymore, and I don't feel like I should buy something that isn't worth my money. So we should vote for the ethical and environmental to help save the planet.
Now, Ms. Audrey, I think we had a photo to put on the screen from the first video that we watched. I don't know if the production can help me out with that photo. Let's see if we can fill the screen with, I think this one of the screenshots of the video that we watched, especially speaking about the unfortunate event where more than 1,000 people died due to that accident. If we don't have it, it's fine. But if you guys are watching this and you say, Pastor, I shop for my clothes, but I'm going to be very honest. I don't think about these types of situations. I just buy clothes for me. Ms. Audrey, do you think it's a common opinion or a common mindset to have for a lot of people? Not really to worry where it comes from, just as long as it fits them well?
Yeah, usually, I mean, especially, we're going to be honest here, the most people that buy the clothing and fashion is going to be women, right? And so from a woman's standpoint of view, I want to say a lot of times it's just something that you look in the store, it looks nice, it looks pretty, it's comfortable, it fits, and that works, right? So sometimes you might buy something, of course, it takes into account how much it costs, right? I'm not going to say that that's not an issue there as well. But usually it's something that you just like in the store. You window shop. Usually when you say you're going to get one thing, you go and buy various items and you leave with more than you expected. So it's something that obviously a lot of times people don't even know. I was shocked myself about the history, about everything that we've seen, about how it, our clothing gets made and all of that. So, I mean, for myself as a woman, as someone that buys, that shops and, likes fashion, it was a little bit of a surprise to find out how everything is made and stuff. So I think, to be honest, because I'm not asking where does this come from or not really researching it, just saying, okay, it's something that I need right now, I'm going to buy it and that's it, end of story. But there is so much more behind it.
And this person who's watching us, we have the photo. Okay, so it says over 1,100 people died in the Rana Plaza building collapse and around 2,500 were injured, making it the deadliest accident in the history of the garment industry. Like you guys are seeing right there, those that information, it kind of brings an awareness. And maybe you say, Pastor, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't really think about it. We want you to tell us. Speak your mind. You can definitely do so. I think we already have another caller or a caller right now on the phone. Let's see if we can connect them. Hello, can you hear us?
Hello, sir.
Yes. Hi, how you doing?
Good, sir. Good evening.
Good, good. We're asking everybody the following question about high-end fashion or just affordable fashion. Do you ever take in consideration when you buy clothes where it might be coming from?
Because as a woman, answer. Sometimes it depends. Sometimes, as a woman, we are buying depends on our budget. Sometimes we base on designs, which is nowadays fast fashion has a better design than high-end fashion. And sometimes high-end fashion, which is they call luxury brand. Sometimes you are just buying the brand name, not the material itself. So
And for
it
example,
depends on the woman.
with what we're showing, unfortunately, what happened with those 1,100 people who died and the 2,500 who were injured due to those conditions of making clothes for famous brands, do you think in any way, shape, or form that would change the way you buy clothes?
Sorry, sir. Pardon me.
Do you think, for example, the harsh conditions that certain countries have to go through to make clothes, do you think that would change the way you shop?
Oh, definitely not, sir.
Definitely not. At least you're honest. Thank you so much for speaking your mind and sharing your opinion with us. Have a good night, okay?
Have a good night, sir. God bless you all.
Take care. 877-785-8700. Mrs. Audrey, do we have any comments?
We do. We have Josephine that says like this: I hold consumers responsible for the fast fashion and consumers responsible for progress. Governments and business are derivative of people. Personal dollars and actions are votes determining our shared future. Please, let's do well. We also have Athena that says, growing up poor has already got me most of the way there, where I am cautious on what I buy. You can't keep clothes that fit until you keep clothes, sorry, my apologies. You keep clothes until they don't fit anymore. And that's something that I just have learned. So usually I'm not one to go and buy anything that I see. But as I have seen on this show, it has made me more aware as to where I buy my clothes and how I buy my clothes. So these are a few opinions that we have shared. And again, I don't want to forget announcing that we have our Telegram poll that everybody can take part of by scanning the QR code as it appears on your screen.
I want to show you guys now what the streets of Toronto had to say about this matter. We'll be right back.
Do you think there's a difference over quality and quantity when it goes between a fast fashion over a high-end fashion?
I do. I've purchased my own things from like Shein or Amazon, and it doesn't last. Sometimes if I need it for like a costume or something, then it works, it does the job, but like you put it in the wash and you don't get another wear from it again.
I think quality is important, but when I buy clothes or something, I also buy if it's cheap. But for example, in the case of Shein, I think I also think about the work. Employees there work a lot, so sometimes I prefer to buy something else.
I think it's a society perspective as well. I think it's pretty much the same thing. It's just how you want to be perceived and viewed, to be honest, because you can, like, especially a lot of the young kids right now, they're all thrifting. These things are costing $5-10, but they make it look like it's high fashion. I think it's all perspective, to be honest.
Between high fashion and fast fashion, where would you recommend where you would spend a little bit more or a little bit less, knowing that the quality might not be as great?
Personally, I think that there's like two topics. Like, for example, the price. Like, there's a lot of people who can't afford expensive clothes, so they have to go on Shein or Amazon or something like that. And but the quality is like really important. So for me, I really prefer like Zara and stuff like that.
I'd say go for like high fashion. Well, I do not judge people getting like Shein and whatever, because like it's like everything is so expensive these days. But then again, if you really want like a clothing that lasts really long, I say go for a high fashion. I mean, But if you want to go for Shein, I'd say go for it. But if you really want something that really lasts long, go for the high fashion.
Do you think that with Shein, do you think that it can affect, because you know how a lot of the clothing has plastic, do you think it affects the environment, or do you think it's just something that isn't really?
I think all the brands affect the environment, or most of them affect the environment. They don't think about the environment. So yeah, it's not only Shein, it's all the brands or most of them.
And do you think that sometimes it's worth buying a higher end than just going for like a fast fashion, or do you think sometimes it's more convenient just a fast like fashion like Shein or Amazon?
I think it's more worth it to buy in the higher end, definitely. Like I said, if you know you're only going to wear it like once or twice, then buy the dupe. But other than that, it doesn't ever last. I had like a Shein addiction during COVID, and none of those clothing items are still in my closet.
Nowadays, everyone buys from Shein and from like low quality places because of the price. So actually, I think it's okay. Like I don't think they feel less.
I guess, but like I said, like there's famous people, there's like rich people you see that they're wearing casual, regular stuff, you know. I said, I think it's all a perspective thing, whether it's life, whether it's your personal liking, you know. I personally, I am a quality over quantity. I can't wear something that doesn't feel right or won't last me, but I'm not gonna go and buy some $200 pants for what reason? No, I can't. But I also don't want to wear something that's gonna like rip in a few days. But yeah, but it's each to their own. I think it's a perspective, like you said. It's their conditions, it's their stability. I feel like if you can rock it, rock it. Simple.
Like she said, if you could rock it, $200 pants, it don't matter. But if you are somebody who you're a bit more conscious, you're a bit more aware of what's going on, of where your clothes are coming from, and you want to speak your mind, you can definitely do so. Miss Audrey, I think we have another caller on the line.
Yes, good evening. Do we have Claudia?
Hello?
Hi, good evening. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. I wanted to ask you the following question as you have been participating of our program. What do you have to say in regards to this topic? What is your opinion about fast fashion versus sustainable fashion? What do you think?
Well, I have to say that I was really in shock when I found out that everything that we buy so much stuff and everything just is thrown away, and the poor conditions that people have to go through. But I will be really honest. As an immigrant, it's really hard to be able to afford like a good pair of shoes or pants or whatever. So I do buy from Shein. I buy a lot from Shein because it's affordable, it's easy, and I grew up in an environment where we took really good care of our clothes. So I have the mentality that even though it's like a cheap material, it's something that it's not built to last. I want to make it last as long as it's possible because I cannot afford something else, you know?
And for you personally, do you have a lot of things that you have donated in the past? Were you shocked to see the results of where it actually all goes to sometimes?
Yeah, I found out recently where everything that we donate goes. I mean, not everything, but yeah, there was a shock for me too. But yeah, I donated some clothes recently. But I just try to keep in mind that as long as I use my clothes as much as I can and donate good stuff, I hope that they will sell in good hands, you know?
Yes. And what do you have to say in regards to, I know you mentioned that you usually go for what's affordable, right? As we have mentioned, Shein is usually the go-to, you can say. But what about in places where it's tough conditions? For example, let's say here in Canada, right? It's about to get pretty cold. What do you have to say about paying, high price for a good jacket, a good coat, something that's going to keep you warm in the long run, as opposed to something that's, kind of affordable and what you would say is in your budget?
Well, I have to say that when I arrived in Canada, it was a struggle for me to get like a jacket that I was able to afford. So I got one winter jacket. It's the only one that I have, and I plan to keep for a while. If it starts deteriorating, well, the way that I will have to survive is just adding more layers under it.
That's true. Well, thank you for speaking your mind.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
So there we have it, Pastor. A lot of people have different opinions, right? As opposed to whether it's affordable or whether it's, gonna last in the long run. And that's what the show is about. The topic of today, fast fashion versus, high-end sustainable fashion.
And if we're being honest, if we're asking each other, do I really want to stop other people from having an opportunity at working and getting income? Because if we were to stop and think how much it would cost to make factories here in Canada or in any other country and sell those same exact products in said country, the price is going to rise even more. For example, when something is made in Canada, everybody has pride in it. Oh, this is homemade. This is made right here. Everybody's going to want it, and the price is going to rise. So I know that there are sometimes people who are a little bit split. They feel bad because of the conditions that they're in, making in these third world countries. But unfortunately, if those are the cards that you're dealt with, I think you got to do something to make sure that that environment fits best for you. But I want to go to the second segment before we finish our program, and we'll be right back with the results of our poll.
From the catwalk to the stores to your closet, keeping up with the latest styles fuels a global industry.
This is probably about 50 to 60,000 pounds.
But there's a dark side to our consumption. What you don't see is this: garbage bags filled with discarded and unused fabric, mountains of waste from the fashion industry's design process.
This pile behind us right here is actually all of the recycling materials that we pick up from our partner brands.
At this nondescript site in Brooklyn, one company, Fab Scrap, has a mission to keep any fabric they can from ending up in landfills. It's estimated that fashion contributes up to 10% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions, more than international flights and maritime shipping combined.
I don't think it's a secret that the fashion industry is one of the largest polluters on the planet, and not just in terms of the material use and material waste, but also in the way that it uses labor and uses human power.
Much of that carbon footprint is generated by clothing production, often made in developing countries, then shipped abroad, worn, and eventually tossed out.
12% of all textile waste happens during the design and production phase of making a garment, and that's where we work, and that is millions and millions of pounds.
Here at Fab Scrap, they're working to cut down clothing waste.
It's not so much the CO2 that's released while it degrades in landfill, it's actually the CO2 savings of not having to create new fabric.
Big name fashion brands like J. Crew, Macy's, and Marc Jacobs and others pay Fab Scrap to collect, sort, recycle, and reuse what they can. It's a painstaking process.
Every bag is pretty much a surprise. You never know what types of fabrics will be in it. This one seems to have a lot of fabric headers and swatches.
Volunteers go through each bag by hand. Materials like cotton, wool, and polyester get shredded and turned into a product called shoddy.
This gets repurposed into different types of insulation. For car doors or for walls, you can have it be really thin and light for moving blankets or for flooring.
Other materials are put up for resale at their store or online. Fab Scrap estimates it has kept nearly 1 million pounds of fabric waste out of landfills since it was founded in 2016. But that's not nearly enough. 85% of textiles in the United States end up in landfills or are incinerated.
We're doing what we can where we're at with what we have. So globally, though, I think that's a drop in the bucket, and there's a lot of work to be done.
The fashion industry has grown exponentially in the last 20 years, now a $2.5 trillion industry that employs 75 million people worldwide. That growth fueled in part by fast fashion, inexpensive, trendy clothing, much of it not made to be a wardrobe staple.
We're making too much of stuff. We end up having 90% of clothing that is thrown out well before the end of its useful life.
Why is it problematic?
It's almost at this point become mass-produced disposable clothing that really is just chasing the trend.
The clothing brand Reformation is worn by celebrities like Jessica Alba, Kendall Jenner, and Kelly Ripa.
I know who I'm wearing. You want to say it? This is Reformation.
Who showed off this Reformation dress on Instagram. The company is working to buck the fast fashion trend.
We're focused on making limited collections. If you can make smaller collections and only make more based on the consumer demand, you don't have that end of season waste.
We met CEO Hallie Bornstein and Chief Sustainability Officer Kathleen Talbot at one of Reformation's stores.
We have 100% traceability, and this cotton was grown in North South Wales, Australia.
The LA-based brand has been betting big that being sustainable can also be profitable.
It sometimes could be more expensive. How do you do this and still stay profitable?
We set out early on to determine and to prove out that you can both be a profitable business and be sustainable, because by definition, it's not sustainable to lose money, right?
They look for greener alternatives, like cutting down on the use of synthetics.
We actually don't allow for synthetics in a lot of the categories that would be machine washed or where we think we have a good natural alternative.
60% of all new clothing on the market are made with synthetic fibers derived from fossil fuels.
For synthetics, it will take over 200 years for it to biodegrade. So just like, throwing plastics away, it's the same thing.
Another method, using excess fabric others would have thrown away.
15% of our product today is made with dead stock. And dead stock is really fabric that is end of life. It was produced and is not currently being used. It has no dedicated purpose right now.
In a rare glimpse at their LA factory, Talbot shows us an outfit made entirely out of dead stock.
This adorable skirt is actually dead stock. So this is over-ordered excess fabric that we were able to transform into a very cute skirt.
Workers on the factory floor incorporate unused old fabrics into trendy new styles, as well as reimagining vintage clothing for resale.
This Chloe dress is a great example where they're actually going to update it and just make it look and feel more relevant to today. So they're going to change the hemline and they're actually going to add some lace detail to the bodice.
Do you think there's a responsibility that the fashion industry as a whole has when it comes to protecting the environment?
I think consumers are really demanding the change. So when we started putting social posts up 10 years ago on Instagram about sustainability, there was no engagement. Today, it's our most engaged with post. So it's a really big change that's already happened.
We know to mitigate climate change, we have to collectively halve our emissions in the next decade.
By showing it can be done, Reformation hopes to help push their industry into a more sustainable future.
I don't think there's a choice anymore. I think brands that are going to survive are going to do the right thing and put the investment in.
And for us to end our poll and read the results, Mrs. Audrey, please.
Yes, Pastor. So the following question, right? When making fashion choices, what do you prioritize? We have 86% that go for affordable, 5% that go for trendy, and 9% that go for ethical, environmental. So there we have it, the final results. And if I can, Pastor, just to conclude, one last comment that comes from Samantha that says that she wished she would have known everything that we have shown here today prior to making her fashion choices, right? She was someone that consumed a lot, that would buy. And now, because of what we have shown, she's going to be actually being more cautious and aware as to what she buys and uses.
Thank you so much. And you guys who are watching us, one of the main things that we all take when it comes to buying clothes, when it comes to seeing our desires, our likes, we put our own little style in it. It all goes back to what Jesus said one time. He said, "You are the salt of the earth." In other words, it is us who bring that flavor. And I always understood and I always learned, it doesn't matter the clothes you wear or how much money you drop, it's how you wear it. So maybe you're someone who, financially speaking, you can't afford something high and mighty, and that's totally fine. But You do have something special that goes far beyond money, far beyond something financial. You have inside of you a talent, and that talent might even be hidden, that will take you to another level in your life so that you can see growth. Maybe you're somebody who, for so long, as the Bible has shown us, sometimes when salt has no flavor or when it loses its flavor, it's used to be stepped on by other people. And maybe that's how you feel right now, stepped on. Maybe you don't even see yourself as someone who can bring any type of flavor, but it's as if somebody asks you, what's your favorite type of food? And in reality, your favorite food isn't that meat or that cut of chicken or the rice and peas. In reality, what brings that flavor to your food is salt. So you, and whatever it is that you do at your work, at home, with your family, you are the salt of the earth. Regardless of the money in your pocket, the amount that you have in your card, you are the salt of the earth. So whatever it is that you have inside of you, when you connect it with God, then your life starts to go forward. Those days that right now are gray start to get brighter, start to shine. And that's what we want to do for you. I want to pray for you in a little bit. But I want to show you Erica's testimony, her story of someone who was depressed. And now her reality is one that's completely different. I ask that you guys prepare a cup of water, because when we come back, we're going to be drinking of this water to terminate your blessing. We'll be right back.
My dad would always drink all the time. He used to be an alcoholic for 30 years. My mom, she was diagnosed with diabetes. So all these problems around me made me have depression. I felt sad. I felt like, why was I going through so much problems and everyone else looked outside like they were happy? Also, my sister, she was going through depression too. She wanted to kill herself, and I would always be constantly fighting with her. It affected me in school too. My grades went down. I started to have also doubts. I began doubting myself. I began to doubt if I will ever be happy. So one of the days, passing along the street near the church, they invited us, me and my mom, they invited us to come and participate. We accepted the invitation, a little bit doubtful. In order to actually overcome all these problems, they taught me how to do a chain of prayer. By participating of the chain of prayer, it awakened my faith. My faith was asleep, actually. But there, I actually learned how to put my faith into practice and see the results and see the power of God in my life. The pastor would mention about the Holy Spirit, how the Holy Spirit can actually change your mind, actually give you direction, fill the void that one is feeling. I decided to seek for the Holy Spirit because that was the only thing that was missing in my life, to feel complete, to feel joy. But it's not actually to feel these stuff, but to know God. I started praying at night. I started praying in the morning too. I used to pray 3 in the morning. I used to make my fast. I used to read more the Bible because I knew that if I actually knew the Word of God and know what would the thoughts of God, my thoughts would also change. And I heard about the pastor saying you have to determine and to receive the Holy Spirit. It's not about feeling. It's not about an emotion. So I went and I say, okay, I want to know who's the real God. I want to know who is God. When I actually started praying, I said, God, I'm sick and tired of being a doubtful person, a person that feels scared all the time, a person with low self-esteem. I'm tired of having always just like the waves going back and forth, not knowing what I'm gonna do with my life. And I told God, I wanna get to know you. I hear about everybody talking about you. I already have given my life to you, but I don't know you personally. And then I started to tell God, I don't want to be the old me. I actually want you to take over my life. I want you to actually take control of me. I want you to use me. I want you to whatever your plans that you have for me, I want them to be fulfilled in my life. Doubts will come in my head telling me that, oh, you won't receive the Holy Spirit because you're not worthy. You're not good enough. Your prayer is not even heard by God. So that moment when I started hearing those voices like in my mind, I rebuked them and I said, no, God, I'm still going to keep on praying. I'm still going to seek for you. So in that moment, it came to my mind, bless your hands and say, God, like, let it be your hands and let it be not my hands. The moment I place them on top of my head, it will be you actually baptizing me with your spirit. So the moment I did it, I placed my hand on top and I said, God, please baptize me with your presence. When I received the Holy Spirit, it was actually a Friday at night. It wasn't a feeling, it wasn't anything. All I felt was like God actually confirmed with me, I am with you. And all this time I waited for you to actually stop doubting and receiving me in your life. And then once like that, I just received certainty. I'm like, God is with me. Nothing, I felt invincible. Like nothing, I could go through whatever, but as long as I have God, his presence inside of me, I can overcome anything. I felt like I wanted to go on top of my house and scream in the top of my rooftop and say, I found God. God has given me the direction, the career path I want to take. Before I didn't know what to study, what to actually, what profession I should take. After I received the Holy Spirit, I know what I want to do in life. And also, the most important thing too, God restored my family. My family, everyone goes to church. All of them, we may have battles, but we know that our strength comes from God. And I don't no longer fight with my sister. We love each other. Before we will be always fighting at the table, but now we get along perfectly. My dad, he actually is no longer an alcoholic. Now he seeks for God. Also, another area that God blessed me is in my love life. I was blessed by God. I put my trust in God. I put everything in the altar, and God blessed me with a man of God. So now I'm an Erica that's actually very blessed. I have peace inside of me. I don't have doubts. I actually believe in myself, but mainly I believe in God. I can pass through whatever, anything, any problems, but I know that I'm going to overcome it with my faith in God. Mainly the priority, I found salvation. I know that whenever I die, I know I'm going to go to the Lord Jesus.
Prepare a glass of water or get closer to your television screen. At this moment, we will have a special prayer to your name.
My Lord, you say that when salt loses its flavor, it has no purpose and it ends up being trampled by men. And maybe this is the state of this person. They've been so rejected, put on the side, mistreated. This person, my God, who has suffering written all over them. And maybe it's gotten to the point where they don't think that there's a solution, but you know there is. And that's why I pray for them. That's why I bless this cup of water next to their screen or in their hand, that when they drink of this water inside of them, they receive that strength, that faith, that hope, that desire to see you work in their lives. My God, I determine the blessing in the life of those who believe, in the life of those who want to change their lives. And my Father, I stretch out my hand to this person. You who feel rejected, you're at the bottom of the barrel. If I can be more blunt, you feel like garbage. You feel like this world doesn't love you. You feel as if everyone is against you. You have no one. You have no mom, you have no dad, you have no siblings. You feel like nobody likes you. Receive right now the love of God. In Jesus Christ's name, amen. We're going to drink of this water right now, and you're going to receive strength in this moment. (2420) Dufferin Street. We're here in Toronto. We are on the corner of Bowie Avenue. Let's see if we can put the map. Thank you so much. Like you see right there, you can take a photo if you want, just a photo of the address. Put it on your GPS if you want. Do something right now. Go to Google Maps, go to Waze, Google right now, type in this address, 2420 Dufferin Street. Did you do it? How long? 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour? Okay. Well, you're going to take that time and you're going to prepare yourself for Sunday, because Sunday at 10 o'clock in the morning, we're going to be in our gathering of faith and miracles. You don't want to miss, because God is working in the lives of those who believe, in the lives of those who are already sick and tired of suffering. It's like that phrase, you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. You want to be free? Well, you have the decision to do so. This Sunday, 10 o'clock. And if you have any questions, any doubts, you can call us, 877-785-8700. God bless all of you. Have a good night.
Sunday of the Seven Prayers. In the gathering of faith and miracles, bringing restoration to health, prayer for your deliverance, to your love life, to your family, your financial life, for inner peace, and a real and true encounter with God. There are 7 prayers that will impact your life and destroy all your troubles, bringing new life in every way. Sunday of the Gathering of Faith and Miracles. Sunday at 10 a.m. 2420 Dufferin Street, 1 block north of Eglinton Avenue, and at every Universal Church in Canada.
Lift up my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come? My help comes from my Lord, who made heaven and earth. He won't let my foot be moved. He who keeps me is the Lord, the one who keeps Israel. Will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is my keeper, He's the shade on my right hand. He keeps my soul, He protects me from